y'all? It's Greek back with another edition of Tutorial Tuesday, and today we're talking about delay and how it can help with your mixes in FL Studio. The last couple Make a Beat Mondays, I've recorded videos and I've had technical difficulties on all of them, so I apologize for not posting on Mondays the last couple of times, but I got a good tutorial today, delay. The last one I did was on reverb, and delay is very similar to reverb. Delay is a mixing tip that'll help fill space in your mix and help put things off in the distance to give depth to your mix as well. So I just want to go over some of the basic parameters of the delay in FL Studio and show you how I use them in my beats. Once you have kind of the basic principles of delay down, once you start downloading other effects plugins that have delay type principles in them, you'll be able to use them a lot easier. So enough talking, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the snare again as the example, kind of like I did in the reverb video, just because I feel like the snare is like the easiest way to hear, some of the differences. I'm also gonna show how I use delay on samples as well too. I typically use a Fruity Delay 2. And again, the concepts you'll learn with this, you'll be able to apply to any sort of delay plugin that you use. So before we jump into the actual knobs on the delay, you can just talk about delay in general first. Delay is somewhat similar to reverb in the sense that it creates an echo. It's just an echo that's at a lot slower frequency than reverb, where reverb, basically, the signal gets repeated as an echo so many times that it just sounds like one consistent sound, whereas delay typically sounds more broken in the way the echo bounces back, so you can actually hear the difference of when the dry signal hits and then the wet signal continues to hit after it. And so I put the delay on here, and I just got a I'm going to just use the snare here. That's with the delay on, and then this is just the regular snare. So again, it basically repeats the signal over and over again, and there's more intervals between the repetition of the sound as opposed to reverb. So it gives you a whole different effect, even though delay and reverb are commonly used in problem-solving decisions when mixing. They have two different purposes, almost like a power drill and a screwdriver, or just nails and screws in general. They both kind of fasten things together, but just two different ways to kind of solve those problems. And some situations one better, and some situations the other, and sometimes you got to use both. We'll go from right to left here. We'll get the dry signal. This is just basically the actual sound, how much it comes through. So with this, we got the snare. If we turn it down, you notice that first hit, it's a lot quieter. You can probably barely hear. Let me turn it up a little bit. So this is just the initial signal that comes in, the initial sound that comes into the preset. Next here, OFS is just the stereo offset that allows you to widen the sound a little bit. I don't typically use this as much with delay, but you can definitely screw around with that to affect the stereo settings. The time, this is one of the most crucial knobs here on the delay. This changes the interval on when the delay, the dry signal actually repeats. So again, this is just the regular. Now let's go ahead and slow the time down. That's too much. And if we speed it up, and it has little notches where you can stop, so you can actually, what I like to do is put it on one of these notches because it will help kind of match the tempo of the beat by using the different notch time intervals. The cut is basically how loud the sound comes back as it repeats. So right now it's turned all the way up, so it's pretty loud. But if we turn this down, immediately sounds like it immediately goes lower and sounds like it's further off in the distance. Feedback volume also controls the sound that bounces back. Go ahead and let you listen to the difference here. Here's with it all the way up. Then here's with it all the way down. So again, the time, the cut, and the volume, these are easily the three most important concepts and parameters that you use for not only on this delay, but any delay that you use. The input volume, this is just basically the input signal that goes into the delay. So that actual snare sound, it's the input volume is how much of that sound you let into the delay before the effect takes place. And then the pan, you can just pan the delay left or right. And now the pan is just the actual delay part itself. So once that snare hits, it'll sound equal in both left and right ears. But if you switch the delay, it will to the left or right. It'll only affect the actual echo, the delay of the sound, not the initial dry signal, just the wet signal. And then the feedback, you can go normal, invert it. Or go ping pong. I don't typically use these at all. We'll go ahead and get into some of the ways that I use delay. So for instance, on a snare sound like this, you can definitely get cool sounds and add some texture to a lot of your percussion. And so if you have a beat that has a lot of open air to it, there's definitely silent points in it. One thing you can do to fill that up with sound is add something like delay on it to give some of your percussion a little extra texture. Not only do I use this on snares a lot, but I love using it on different perks. The way I kind of mix things typically, I try to make the snare and the kick thump as hard as they possibly can. And I like to use a lot of different perks to kind of fill in some of the extra space with the rhythm to keep it going. And a lot of times using the delay on those perks will help those percussion instruments kind of put off in the distance and things like that. And by using the different time intervals with the delay, it kind of helps add an extra rhythm element to it as well, which is pretty cool. I also know of another top secret delay trick that allows your snares or just any drum instrument in general to slap harder. What a lot of mixing engineers found out in the past is that if you make the time intervals so small on the delay, you can't notice that there's actually a gap between the sounds, and it helps make the snare or whatever drum you're using sound louder than it really is. Its perceived sound is much louder to the listener. So if we take this down, and if you look up in the left-hand corner of the screen, we can get it down to like 1/10 of a second. You can't really notice the delay anymore. And so if you bring that down real low and bring the cut up, you'll notice that you can kind of hear the thump and delay a little bit more. And so by bringing this time down to, something like around 1/10 of a second and then really fine tuning the cut, if you have a snare that just isn't popping the way you want it to and cutting through the mix, you can really make that short time interval on the delay and make the cut just perfect. That delay helps make it sound like you have a lot fatter snare that's slapping. Once you solo it, you'll definitely be able to hear the difference in the snare, but once it's playing with the mix with everything else, you don't really notice it as much. There's also a lot of defaults in the Fruity delay, but I know the principles of delay, so I don't really screw around with the defaults too much. I know how to move the parameters to make the sound that I want, but it's definitely worth trying out some of the presets that are already there, because if you find something that you already like on an instrument, then hey, why screw with it even more, So those are two ways that I use delay. I think one of the last ways I primarily use delay is on the sample itself. So I downloaded this UJam Micro, which kind of effects plugin that has a bunch of different effect settings on it, and one of them is delay. So we'll go ahead and try to demo this. So again, the same concept. You can just use the regular FL Studio delay. If you are interested in getting this UJam Fin Micro, it's actually free. I'll go ahead and put a link down in the description on where you can get that. But I want to use the delay setting on here. So in this particular one, you don't have the same amount of control as you would the FL Studio delay. It's just basically one preset as a delay, but I like this preset a lot, and I've been using it in some of my beats so far. So here's the sample with no delay on it. And now here's the delay cranked all the way up. All right, so obviously that delay is exaggerated, and that would make a pretty muddy and terrible sounding mix. But hopefully that shows you what the delay can actually do for your sample. Makes it a much more ambient and full type of sound. If that's kind of what you're looking for that particular mix in a song. Obviously, don't go crazy extreme with it. You'll be able to use the knob to affect the amount to basically get more of a wet signal. They fill out the mix a little bit more, but again, not too much where it just sounds muddy and like crap. You can be able to do that with the Fruity Delay 2, or pretty much any other thing that has the delay capabilities on it. So that's pretty much it for Tutorial Tuesday and delay. Definitely take time to experiment with delay on your drums, on your samples, and just anything else, because music's all about experimenting, baby. If you got any additional questions about anything that I covered in the video, please let me know in the comments. If you got any tips for me on how to become a better producer, or how to make these videos better, definitely let me know. Thank you for watching again. Greek Indian Hip Hop Beats, aka Greek, aka half Greek, half amazing, aka Dat Boy. Keep grinding and keep making slappers out there, alright?